Good afternoon everyone. This is Singh, student teacher B at 4th semester Army Institute of Education, Greater Noida. Today I am giving my presentation on feminism, which is one of the most important topics, comes under B Ed course code 210, Gender, School and Society. So let's start. First we will see what we have to cover in this topic feminism. We have to cover introduction part, definition of feminism, history of feminism, types of feminism, importance of feminism, and at last conclusion. Let's begin with the etymology of feminism. Feminism is a word that gets thrown around a lot in today's media. But do you really know what that word means? So let's start with the building blocks. Femin comes from the Latin root word femina, meaning woman. Ism is a suffix derived from the Greek ismos that turns the preceding noun into a verb, implying a belief, practice, or worldview. The first recorded use of the word in English was in 1851, but at that time it just meant the state of being feminine. Then in 1837, French philosopher and utopian socialist Charles Fourier coined the word féminisme to mean advocacy of women's rights. The words féminisme and féministe first appeared in France and the Netherlands in 1872, Great Britain in the 1890s, and the United States in 1910. Now let's check feminism. What is feminism? What do we mean by the term feminism? So, feminism is a collection of movements and ideologies aimed at defining, establishing, and defending equal political, economic, and social rights for women. Feminism talks about the position of women and seeks to change the power relations between men and women prevailed in the patriarchal setup, leads to examination of gender's roles, how roles for males and females are culturally constructed. My favorite definition comes from Dr. Susan Curie Seebeck, that is, feminism is a movement that seeks equality for people of any gender. It is founded on the belief that people should be able to pursue any opportunity and demonstrate any characteristics regardless of gender. Important things to note about feminism today: both men and women can be feminist. Feminism is in favor of equality between genders, not dominance of women over men. In the right side of slide, you all are seeing a chart having three terms: misogynist, misandrist, and feminist. Here, misogynist means a person who hates or discriminates women, where male is greater than female. It is male-dominating individuals. Second one, misandrist, meaning a woman who hates men or believes that women are better than men. It is opposite of misogynist, here female having greater power than male. Now third one, feminist. Feminist means a person who supports feminism. Here in the eye of feminist, both men and women are equal and have equal rights to be enjoyed in society. Now let's see what dictionaries say about feminism. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, feminism is defined as belief in or advocacy of women's social, political, and economic rights, especially with regard to equality of the sexes. Another definition, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, feminism is defined as the theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes and organized activity on behalf of women's rights and interests. Now let's check out general definition on feminism. Feminism is a philosophy in which women and their contributions are valued. Here, the global idea of feminism refers to the belief that men and women deserve equality in all opportunities, treatment, respect, and social rights. Now let's look into the history of feminism. Throughout history, women have struggled to gain equality, respect, and the same rights as men. This has been difficult because of patriarchy, an ideology in which men are superior to women and have the rights to rule women. The history of the modern Western feminist movements is divided into three waves. It plays an important role in changing the status of women. We will discuss these three waves in brief later on in coming slides. Each is described as dealing with different aspects of the same feminist issues. Now let's discuss three waves of feminism one by one. Firstly, we see first wave of feminism. First wave of feminism refers to a period of feminist activity during the 19th century and early 20th century in the United Kingdom, Canada, the Netherlands, and the United States. It focused on officially mandated inequalities, primarily on gaining women's suffrage, the right to vote. First wave of feminists worked not only for suffrage or right to vote, but also for the right to an education, the right to work, the right to work safely, the right to divorce, the right to their children, and the right to themselves and their own bodies. Dozens, if not hundreds of organizations were made to advocate for education, property rights, working rights, voting rights, as a result of which, in 1918, the Representation of the People Act 1918 was passed, granting the vote to women over the age of 30 who owned houses. In 1928, this was extended to all women over 21. With this first wave of feminism, colleges in England opening to women in the 1840s and 1850s, and with women like Elizabeth Blackwell being one of the first women in the US to graduate in medicine, right in education were being gained. By the 1920s, women were being given not only the rights to vote, but the right to run for office. The later part of the first wave feminism included Margaret Sanger's effort towards family planning and abortion advocacy. The first wave of feminism was the longest and it is the most taken for granted. Now move on to second wave of feminism. Second wave of feminism is a period of feminist activity first began in the early 1960s in the United States and eventually spread throughout the Western world and beyond. In the United States, the movement lasted through the early 1980s. It later became a worldwide movement that was strong in Europe and the parts of Asia, such as Turkey and Israel, where it began in the 1980s and it began at other times in other countries. The second wave had more to do with the main area of focus are the rights of women in the workplace, equal pay for equal work, fair employment opportunities for married women, reproductive rights, the role of women in the home, improved sexual freedom. Now let's move on to third wave of feminism. Third wave is generally marked as beginning in the early 1990s and continuing to the present. This movement is usually perceived as a reaction to or continuation of second wave feminism. The movement arose partially as a response to the perceived failures of and backlash against initiatives and movements created by second wave feminism during the 1960s, 1970s and 1980s. Rebecca Walker coined the term to highlight the third wave's focus on queer and non-white women. Third wave ideology focuses on a more post-structuralist interpretation of gender and sexuality. Third wave of feminism attempts to expand the topic of feminism to include a diverse group of women with a diverse set of identities. This was a movement based on issues like rape, patriarchy, sexuality, women empowerment, and other feminist issues. Now here we discuss types of feminism. Traditionally, feminism is often divided into three main traditions, usually called radical feminism, socialist or Marxist feminism, and liberal feminism. First, we talk about radical feminism. Radical feminism is a movement that believes sexism is so deeply rooted in society that the only cure is to eliminate the concept of gender completely. Radical feminism questions the very system and ideology behind women's subjugation. The term often refers to the women's movements emerging from the civil rights, peace, and other liberation movements at a time when people increasingly were questioning different forms of oppressions and power. Radical feminists seeking to understand the roots of women's subordination have provided the major theoretical understandings that has served as the basis for the inspiration and analysis guiding women's movements around the world. Now let's move on to second type of feminism, that is socialist feminism. Radical feminism is the most extreme form. The second type of feminism, called socialist feminism, is slightly less extreme but still calls for major social change. Socialist feminism is a movement that calls for an end to capitalism through a socialist reformation of our economy. They insist that the only way to end the oppression of women is to overthrow the capitalist system. Socialist feminism is the result of Marxism meeting radical feminism. Socialist feminism focuses on economics and politics. Now move on to third type of feminism, that is liberal feminism. A movement that believes all individuals should be free to explore equal opportunities and rights. Liberal feminists argue that society holds the false belief that women are by nature less intellectually and physically capable than men. So, liberal feminism fights for complete gender equality through social, political, and legal means. There are some other types of feminisms are as follows: black feminism, cultural feminism, eco-feminism, transnational or global feminism, and visionary feminism. Now let's talk about why is feminism so crucial for a country like India. India needs feminism because a woman deserves the same amount of money and respect as a man does for performing the same task. Now let's look upon the number one, to rid women of male dominance. India needs feminism because a woman should not be considered a responsibility of a male throughout her life, whether it be her father, brother, husband or son. Practices like Kanyadan, Raksha Bandhan and the Purdha system, where a woman is veiled behind a ghungat, highlight this extent of male dominance. These practices emphasize that strong, capable men have to protect the weak, fragile women, and that women aren't designed to protect, but to be protected. Now move on to second point, to promote equality of the sexes. India needs feminism because a woman is not a burden and marriage should not be the only reason for her existence. Every year, 2 lakh girls are killed even before they can step into this world, and thousands of women die due to dowry harassment. In many Indian households, males and females are treated differently. Education as well as nutrition for boys is prioritized while that of the girl is neglected. Now move on to third point, to break menstruation taboos. Now move on to fourth point, to stop telling women how to dress. India needs feminism because girls are shunned for their choice of clothing. There have been several unreasonable instances where fatwas have been issued against female celebrities for wearing western clothes, one of them for also wearing a sari. Now move on to fifth point, to end the idea that men need to be stronger than women. India needs feminism because no man should be under the pressure of being emotionally and physically stronger than a woman. It's time that statements like "Mard ko dard nahi hota" and "Ladki roti nahi" are sidelined and men are not sneered at for volunteering to take up responsibilities at home. Now move on to the sixth point, to end unfounded stereotype about gender roles. India needs feminism because even professions and family roles have been stereotyped based on gender. For example, professions like engineering, aviation and military are considered masculine, and professions like teaching, fashion, designing and homemaking are considered feminine. Now move on to the last point. To ensure women are respected regardless of their career choices. India needs feminism because a woman is treated with disdain whether she is employed or not. A certain section of our society believes that it is an offense if a woman is well educated and working to support herself or her family financially. Another section of our societies believes that becoming a housewife would contribute little to women's empowerment. Women who choose to raise their children full-time over continuing their career are criticized, but what is vital is to realize that just because a woman isn't earning doesn't mean her work is less important. Now I am concluding my presentation. Feminism aims at gaining a balance between women and men in all spheres of society, without having anyone undiminished but treated fairly and equally. So the conclusion of feminism is when women are valued for themselves as men are. When women can walk down a street without being harassed. It's when good husbands and fathers are the norm. It's when trans men and trans women get the healthcare they need that is appropriate for their bodies, and what it says on their driver's license isn't considered relevant. The conclusion of feminism is when girl children are not sold into marriage or any children into the sex trade ever. The conclusion of feminism is not world peace or love and harmony, but the removal of the systemic, universal devaluing of women and women's work by society. That will mean more competition, but also much more sharing and cooperation. It's a different dynamic and one look forward to experiencing. At last, feminism has never been about getting a job for one woman. It's about making life more fair for women everywhere. It's not about a piece of the existing pie. There are too many offers for that. It's about baking a new pie. As beautifully quoted by Gloria Steinem. Thank you and have a nice day.